Hey guys, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe on this case, because the way this video is done, I'm only doing one case, but the case has another case with it, and it goes from the first case to the second case, back to the first case, and that's just hard to edit.
Ashley develops a habit that her parents find puzzling.
Ashley would come to me several times a day and request water.
She just started drinking more and more. It was very strange.
She would just refill a 20-ounce bottle of water 7 or 8 times a day, 2 times an hour. It wasn't normal for children her age. She's drinking a lot of water, but my goodness, she goes to the restroom 8-10 times during daylight hours. That's crazy.
Then the bedwetting started. It was almost a nightly occurrence. We had to go out and buy rubber sheets for the mattress to protect them.
It was becoming quite a problem for her, and I found that to be bizarre. Some basic tests, and then we began talking about this incessant thirst. And the doctor had mentioned specifically, these are key symptoms of diabetes. We need to have her screened.
That's possible.
Juvenile diabetes is a disorder in which a child's body is unable to regulate its glucose levels. Unless carefully managed, the disease can be fatal.
I could have never imagined when I held her in my arms for the first time that I ever would be contemplating these issues. The implications were possibly that I could lose my child, that she could die.
They leave the young parents with more questions than answers.
The doctor came in and told us that Ashley's glucose levels were normal. Ashley does not have diabetes. I asked the doctor if there was any other concern that I needed to have as far as her drinking so much water, and they told me everything was fine.
We really had no choice but to accept the diagnosis.
But despite the doctor's assurances, Ashley's compulsive drinking continues to intensify. And by the end of the year, she's going through up to 20 bottles of water a day.
Ashley would try to sneak water all the time. She'd sneak bottles of water, and I would find them under her bed. I was thinking, there has to be limits.
Nothing made sense. We didn't know where to go with it.
Over the course of 3 years, we went and saw 5 to 6 pediatricians.
And there was never an answer. It always came back the same, negative for diabetes.
Doctors confirmed with us and reassured us that there was absolutely nothing wrong with Ashley.
Not sure where to turn next, Amy and John do their best to manage the strange behavior. But it isn't long before Ashley's teachers begin to express their own concerns.
When Ashley was in school, her teacher came to me and she said Ashley was going to the restroom sometimes twice an hour. So when you add up all that time, we're talking 16, 20 times a day.
When I would be in class, I would always have to use the bathroom over and over and over again. And the teachers would always get really annoyed with me. It was frustrating because I didn't know what I was doing wrong. Why can't I not be thirsty?
It's a lot for an 8-year-old to deal with. But shortly after the end of the school year, Ashley begins to develop an entirely new and painful symptom.
I started having a headache. It was horrible. It was very throbby, like something was squeezing my eyes, and just over and over and over. It was really bad.
So I gave her some over-the-counter medication, and she seemed to go on about her business.
A headache's a headache. They'll pass. So I didn't think too much of it at first.
But after 4 days, Ashley's excruciating headache still hasn't subsided.
She's not feeling any better, and the pain is getting worse. I knew something was very wrong, so we rushed directly to the doctor's office. He said she sounded a little congested and probably had a sinus infection. The doctor prescribed antibiotics to treat the infection. I felt very confident this was all just going to blow over and she was going to be fine.
But the agonizing headaches don't go away. In fact, they intensify.
Yep.
Over the course of the next 3 weeks, we went to 2 other pediatricians because this sinus infection wasn't getting any better. And all of them prescribed different antibiotics. None of them provided any relief.
I just wanted the pain to go away.
Then, just when Ashley thinks things can't get any worse, another frightening symptom sets in, out of the blue.
And I noticed she was covering her left eye. I pulled her hand away and I said, Ashley, what are you doing?
And I explained to her, I see two of you. Like, you're right here, but then there's another you right here.
Her left eye was turning in towards her nose and looking over towards the right instead of looking straight ahead. Office, he's looking in her eyes. He turns and he looks at me and the blood just ran out of his face. This is not a normal happening. He was very, very concerned. Immediately, he sent us to the hospital to have an MRI. I felt like the wind had been sucked out of me. We got in the car and just started driving. I immediately called John and said, there is something seriously wrong with Ashley. What is it that these doctors have missed?
It scared me to death to know something is definitely wrong with my daughter. I got in the car and raced to the hospital.
It was scary because I didn't know what was going on.
As soon as they arrive at the emergency room, the on-call doctor orders an MRI of her brain.
I was beyond concerned. It was becoming, I'm afraid. What is going on? Things are moving very quickly now.
All kinds of things just run through your mind at once.
But nothing could have prepared John and Amy for what the MRI reveals.
One of the physicians came to us and stated that we have found a tumor in my daughter's brain. I looked at John and I...
Now, her parents have just learned that a golf ball-sized tumor is growing in her brain.
At this point, they don't know what kind of tumor it is. They don't know how it originated. What are you going to do for my child? You've got to save her. What are you going to do?
The worst case scenario always rolls through your mind. That was the worst day of my life.
They didn't know what was going on, and I didn't know why all this stuff was happening. That was the scariest thing for me.
Ashley is immediately admitted to the pediatric cancer clinic, and oncologist Dr. Stuart Gold is assigned to her case.
Ashley presented to us with a history of having headaches, some changes in her vision, as well as trouble with urinating too much and drinking too much. Ashley had a mass on her MRI in the third ventricle, in the area of the pineal gland.
The pineal gland is a centrally located area of the brain where many vital nerves and glands intersect.
It was explained to me that Ashley had a golf ball sitting in the soul of her brain. That the soul was where all of the neuropathways connected and crossed.
But as dire as Ashley's condition is, the doctors can't treat her until they determine exactly what kind of tumor she has.
We get clues on MRI scans of what things may be, but we never know what they are for sure until we have a biopsy and can look at it under a microscope. We needed surgery to confirm the diagnosis.
It was like living in a virtual nightmare, that somebody was going to have their hands inside of her brain.
Trying to get a piece of tissue. Sometimes you can have bleeding, you can have other complications that could lead to death or neurologic consequences.
There was a 10% chance that Ashley would not survive the surgery at all.
But it was explained to me that not doing the surgery, it was about a 100% chance of death.
When we had to wheel her into surgery, that was the hardest thing I have ever done in my entire life.
We had to take a long trip down a hallway to the OR. The hardest part was when the doors closed.
And can you stop making noise? Thank you, cat.
You don't know.
Waiting for Ashley to come out of surgery was agonizing.
We didn't know she'd make it through. It was the longest time of my life.
With each passing moment, John and Amy's anxiety only deepens. Finally, after an excruciating 5 hours, the OR doors swing open.
The surgeon came out and she was smiling and she said, the surgery went well.
Great.
After surgery, the biopsy confirmed that Ashley had a pineal germinoma.
A pineal germinoma is a rare type of brain tumor that is formed by germ cells. In healthy individuals, germ cells play a key role in
It determines the gender of the fetus. I censored mystery diagnosis because mystery diagnosis said the S word, and I didn't feel comfortable with that on YouTube.
the fetus. But in patients like Ashley, for unknown reasons, the germ cells travel to the brain and wreak havoc on multiple neurological systems.
Knowing that this had been growing in Ashley's brain for her entire life, that immediately shocked me.
Germinoma evolves somewhere in the development of the embryo as cells called germ cells migrate to the wrong area and they take up home and grow abnormally and cause a tumor. As tumors grow in the area of the pineal and the pituitary gland, they can destroy the pituitary gland. As this happens, the pituitary gland can no longer do its basic function, making hormones that help regulate the body.
In Ashley's case, one of those hormones controlled the production of urine and led to a rare condition called diabetes insipidus.
Diabetes insipidus is when you cannot concentrate your urine. So you keep urinating and urinating, then you get dehydrated and you drink and drink, and it actually looks quite a bit like childhood with diabetes, but it's not.
For years and years, doctors kept looking at me saying all the blood tests are normal, when in all actuality, the blood tests weren't normal. They just weren't testing for the right thing.
The tumor was gone.
That's great.
This is when finally I could take a breath of air.
But while the gravest threat to Ashley's health, the tumor, has been successfully treated, she suffered extensive damage to her pituitary gland and will need to take hormone replacements for the rest of her life.
Everything that the brain would actually direct as far as hormone has to be directed medicinally. So her weight is directly affected, her metabolism is directly affected, and the diabetes insipidus, all of that is regulated through medications that she has to take on a daily basis.
The tumor did the damage, but still, we're pretty lucky.
We were told that if the tumor had gone undiagnosed and untreated, Ashley would have probably had a stroke, and she would have died.
Left untreated, Ashley's tumor would have been fatal.
Anybody that has a kid, they're really lucky to have that gift. And to have it almost taken away from you, it's frightening.
Oh, the video.